Hey, hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think we just have about 14 people joined still, so we'll wait for another couple of minutes. Maybe we'll wait until 3, 5, and then we'll start the session. Numbers are slightly increased. I think we'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes, and then I think we'll start the session. Okay, I think we are given enough time for the participants to join. So it's a time for starting the session. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And also, I'm absolutely excited to introduce our speaker for today, Swati Valsarkar. Swati comes with about 18 years of global experience in leadership and talent development, and she has been in the forefront of building future-ready leaders and driving enterprise transformation. So at Oars, she has led powerful large-scale leadership initiatives, including AI technology, leadership programs, enabling organization to build capabilities, accelerate innovation, and stay ahead of the curve. She collaborated closely with the C-suite leaders and global institutions such as Harvard Business Publishing and Cambridge to design learning ecosystems that are not just impactful, but truly business-driven and future-focused. Her work is great example of how L&D can directly influence strategy, scale, and transformation. So get ready for a insightful and high impact session. Let's give a big virtual welcome to Swati. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naveen. It's a delight to interact with fellow L&D and HR people. And I was quite excited to share my 2 cents on this topic, which I'm deeply connected with and I've been working for some time now. So hello, everybody. I'm Swati Valsankar. Like Naveen introduced, I'm a part of Leadership and Talent Academy at ATOS, and I've been working in ATOS for about 10 years now. So today, in next 1 hour, we'll step back and reflect on how digital transformation, AI, and changing way of working has particularly evolved leadership development, especially now that we're talking of AI in a day-to-day basis, we're talking about digital transformation. I think most of our IT organizations are talking about uh, transformation through AI, digital transformation, and also the change working has changed over time. So if you've seen like 5 years, 10 years before, the things were entirely different than what it is right now. This is not about replacing what already works. It's about understanding where we may need to expand and adapt our approach. So, leaders today face rapidly shifting expectations, accelerating technology cycles, and the demand for continuous capability growth. The programs that will win are those designed for the one that we are in, not the one that we left behind. So, we are going to brainstorm. So this is not a session about me telling you or sharing with you the best practices. It's a learning session for me as well, because there are a lot of things that I might not know. And if you'd like to put it in the chat, enhance what I'm saying, please feel free to do that. Challenge me in a way. I'm more than happy to revisit my ways. It's entirely a brainstorming session wherein we can interact, share our ideas and thoughts on this topic. So moving on, what are the things that I'd like you to keep in mind while going through this session? As we go through, I'd invite you to keep these few lenses in mind. First, strategic alignment. How closely our programs are connected to real business priorities and not just capability frameworks. A lot of time we get stuck with our capability framework, and our strategies, our organization vision are left behind. So, how closely we are aligned to that. Second, where learning actually happens. Are we relying primarily on our formal interventions like a classroom session or a virtual session, or does development continue in a day-to-day work? Are we uh, including and uh, adding learning in our flow of work, which I think I'm sure a lot of you might be hearing on a day-to-day level on LinkedIn, on various places, including learning in the flow of work. And also, the third is, what is the role of digital and AI? Where could these genuinely enhance the experience? I'm sure we all have, and I'm sure we're all on the same boat, wherein we have the pressure of leveraging AI in L&D, in leadership development, and we know and we have some idea, but we don't know where to go. But it's somewhere we can brainstorm on how we are doing it in our respective organization. And it's just about enhancing the learning experience through AI and digital rather than just being an add-on. Besides that, this isn't about evaluating. It's also about observing what is currently true. So now I'll have a quick uh, uh, activity for you all to anchor this context. Let take a quick pulse. In one word, I'd like you to put in the chat. What is the most noticeable challenge in leadership development in your organization today? It's a word cloud, so you can put it in the cloud, put it in the response, and we'll get the options here. Change. That was something that was first in my mind. I'm looking for more responses, please. Okay, I think everybody would want to say change management, which is fine, which is totally understandable. And I totally agree to that because change is something that has been, we have been seeing that for last 5 years, especially in ATOS. If you're following ATOS, you'd know, if you've read about ATOS, you'd know we've been through multiple ups and downs, and so many things have happened over time now that we've started talking about change fatigue. So, change is definitely one of the things, yes, managing change is definitely one of the things that we are all dealing with in our roles with leadership development. Yeah, we'll share the result of the poll. Okay. So, now, why leadership development must evolve? The context around leadership has not changed overnight, but it has shifted steadily. So if you see here, technology cycles are shorter. We're talking about Gen AI, now we're talking about agentic AI. We were talking about something else few years back, and now we're talking about entirely something else, which means leaders often need to respond before things are fully defined. That also means that as leadership development, we have to be little more visionary to see that okay, this might come in, be this skill might be required in the future. So I still remember when, and I'll keep sharing my personal anecdotes. Um, I still remember when we used to heavily rely on classroom trainings, and suddenly there was a shift to a virtual sessions. So we created this program with Harvard Business Publishing on leading in the digital age in 2018, and that's when a lot of people didn't really understand the concept of virtual virtual sessions, and we did struggle initially, but then just one more year, we all shifted to virtual because of COVID, and things changed drastically. So now it's like virtual is a part of our life. Especially when we are working in a global environment, when we cannot afford for people to travel across the globe and come together. Like I said in the next point, if you see in the next point as well, we are more working in a hybrid and global teams. Teams are more distributed, which changes how leaders build trust and alignment. Today, building trust is something that is extensively spoken about. Building empathy is something that we are extensively talking about, which I'm sure about 6 to 8 years back, we didn't actually pay much attention to. AI is starting to influence decision making, often providing inputs that leaders need to interpret rather than generate. So it is helping them more in the decision making. And with that, skills are evolving more quickly. So when I was working with persistent systems in 2012 and 13, we used to talk about uh, the skills that we don't even know now. And now the skills are entirely different. I'm sure that the duration has changed. Of course, it's been a decade. The change was there, but even if you see last 2 years, what we were talking now has entirely changed. So things are moving quickly, which means learning cannot be occasional. It needs to be ongoing. And why do we talk about continuous learning? Why do we talk about including learning in the flow of work? Because that that creates a kind of an effect. So these shift don't require a complete reset. We're not looking at canceling the entire structure that we used to follow since long. What we are suggesting here is that some approaches may need to evolve. Some things can be added, something can be tweaked, and something can be removed entirely. Now, in this context, the expanding roles of leaders in IT organization. The role of leaders have become broader, in many ways more nuanced, wherein now we don't talk about local teams. Leading is about it's crossing boundaries. It's working with multiple teams, functions, and sometimes geographies, making decisions with partial information where clarity emerges over time rather than upfront. So we have to deal with ambiguity. And I know with my current organization, we have been dealing with that for quite some time now. So having the readers prepared to deal with ambiguity and make decisions on whatever information that is available to them, enabling innovation, which involves creating more psychological safety, not just driving outcomes. So here we talk about it's okay to fail. Don't be scared of failing. And most of the leaders that I talk to today, they just say one thing, one of those things, that people are scared of failing. And we have evolved because we thought that it's okay to fail, and that's how you learn, that's how you evolve over time. So that is one thing that we are really focusing on when it comes to leaders of tomorrow, and also increasingly working along AI tools. I'm sure we have to focus on AI fluency, AI literacy. The words might differ, but messages, everybody in the organization needs to learn AI. So interpreting, so what do they do? Interpret outputs and also making judgment calls. So leadership is becoming less about control, but also about navigation through change, navigation through organizational journey, and a lot of other things. Moving on. Um, what impactful leadership development looks like. So we all, when we create leadership development sessions or programs, we have a common DNA, which is we are designed with outcome, not just activities in mind. So when we say that, um, when we look at programs that seem to create lasting impact, a few elements which are common stand out. Alignment with business priorities. When we are building on a program, we have to see the direct relevance to their work. Is it really working for them? Or is it just a copy paste? Or it's just a cookie cutter kind of a thing that we are giving one size fits to all everybody? That doesn't work today. What we are doing today is we have to focus on customization. We have to focus on behavior, moving beyond concept to what actually changes in practice. Has your behavior changed? Has the person changed over time in terms of 30, 60, 90? I'm sure most of you know about a 30, 60, 90 kind of a thing, the feedback process. Have we done that? And also real world application, working on actual challenges rather than hypothetical cases. That comes when we are connected to our leaders, when we are interacting with them. understanding that, okay, these are the real world problems. And it can change, but the underlying facts remains the same. So like when we said, I was expecting more responses though, but when we say change management, it's definitely it's the same across all the organizations, and I'm sure it'll resonate with all of you. Measurement, looking at shifts in behaviors or outcomes, not just participation or feedback. So including things like use cases or change of behavior, what is the outcome that we are looking at after this program, is something that we have to focus on. And I'm sure all of you might be doing it, and I'm sure some of you would be saying that this is not new, but are we really focusing on that? Or are we really doing that? Because I remember when I started, we were focusing on the completion percentage. We were focusing on the feedback. We were focusing on the participation. That, okay, this is my, like, I have 90% participation. But that, is that really working? Are people getting the kind of learning that we are expecting them to learn through this program? Is the time that they're investing in the programs worth really fulfilling? Is it really helping them? Are some of the questions that I'd like to ask. So it's just a shift from delivering content to enabling change over time. And I think that's the crux when it comes to leadership development. Okay, so like I said in the beginning as well, we are not looking at canceling the entire structure that we are working on. What we are looking at is tweaking the current processes, how it uh, adjusts and navigates in the current organization situation and current world. So formal programs, especially workshops, continue to play an important role. So traditional formats definitely remain valuable. A classroom session definitely works best, and people crave for it now that we've moved almost 60-70% to virtual. People crave to have a face-to-face intervention, which says a lot because human connect doesn't really go anywhere. But they cannot stand alone. We need to have a lot of other spices attached to it to make a nice proper dish. The question is whether to use them or how to complement them with richer, more sustained approaches. So here, when I say about formal programs, they help create shared understanding and provide a space to step back from our day-to-day work. However, on their own, they might not be able to always translate into sustained behavior change. Um, so without reinforcements, concepts fade. So we know the concept wherein the person, if a person has taken a session, there might be a certain duration after which he might entirely forget. Without application, they remain theoretical. If they're not able to use what they've learned in our programs, they'll they'll forget about it, and it'll just be like a kind of a theory. Without follow up, they don't become habits. So we have to, that's why we focus, like I said at the beginning of the session as well. That's why we focus on continuous learning, actual follow up, so that become a day to day thing. So the opportunity is not to replace classrooms, but to extend what happens beyond them. So we're talking about workshops, we're talking about classroom programs, we're talking about one time courses. But what is the core challenge? But I said 70% of the learning is forgotten within a week, which is entirely correct. And we all are struggling with it. That, okay, how to keep that thing, how to keep that learning going, how to keep that um, learning process going, learning journey going. And that's where we have to make the tweaks. Now, coming to the learnings in the flow of work. The most durable leadership development happens when learners actually lead embedded in their real work, not apart from it. They might take a day off, they might take a day away from their work, attend our sessions, but is that where the learning is integrated more naturally into the work itself? I'm sure we have mixed answers. leaders working in real business challenges and reflecting on them. So what are the things that they can do here? Action learning projects. So one of the things that we have recently introduced in our one of my programs, and please feel free to share your best practices. I'm here to learn as well, and I'm here to make notes. So if you're doing something which is extraordinary and you're really really proud of for your learning programs, put it in the chat, and I'm going to make notes. So we have introduced something called use case, AI based use case. So all the business leaders who took a part in my program, they have to work on 3 to 5 use cases, AI based use cases from their area of business. So they come from multiple areas of business. Some people come from cloud and modern infrastructure. Some people come from digital. Some people come from smart platforms. Some people come from data and AI. Some people come from maybe even cybersecurity. So what do we do with AI? And we're not just looking at simplifying a specific process. We are looking at building on the business value. How do you create business value through a use case? And we're not looking at, okay, I can run a report like that, I can put an email like this, which usually a lot of people do on AI. But here we said, build strong use case, 3 to 5 use case, and it's just not their job. Most of the leaders that we have invited had about 200 to 300 people reporting into them, which is a good number. So take help of your direct reports, which are about 9, 10. Help, ask them to build on the use case. And to our surprise, almost 90 to 95% participants. And I'm talking about a cohort size of about 60 people, all senior management. They had worked on building an AI-based use case, and we could see how they are collaborating. And it was a learning journey of about 18 weeks. How they had worked through those 18 weeks, using whatever we were sharing with them in the modules with with their team members, and bringing actual value on the table. So this served multiple purposes. One, of course, they were using their learnings in their in the programs within their team. So, of course, it was a part of learning in the flow of work, actually. And then I personally emphasize on cascading learning. So whenever a session happens, we share with them some discussion pointers, which they can cascade to their subordinates, and a set of discussion points through which they can connect to their senior management or their managers. So it's like a two-way thing. So they get a lot of input and they give a lot of input to their subordinates and learn from them. So it's like a kind of a regular thing. So this again builds what I say the second point, peer groups, which create space for shared learning and perspective. So peer groups can be the cohorts, the breakout rooms, the project teams, the case study teams, but they can also be their team members. So by team members, we're not just letting you give them orders or direction and everything, whatever a manager does, but we're also making them a party to your learning journey, not just your subordinates, but also your managers. Coaching conversation. So I think this is something that has come up big time in last few years, wherein we are extensively talking about coaching and mentoring. I again have a personal anecdote, and I'm sure it will get bored. But in one of my sessions, when we offered mentoring about a few years back, everybody was ready to be a mentor, but very less people were ready to be mentored by somebody. And that's why we saw, there's a gap. And today, coaching and mentoring session is one of an integral part of all our programs, where we talk to them what is the difference between coaching and mentoring. Secondly, it is also why do you need coaching and mentoring? And that's where, you have personalized guidance through supported dialogue. So once you understand, so people connect with the senior management. We have a good team of internal coaches, but the knowledge around or the information around it is so empowering to people that we have seen a good growth in the coaching and mentoring requests. Timely feedback. Of course, when we say real time feedback chain, yes, we do that after each session. We take surveys, we take uh, people, ask them to fill them forms, but it also about intermediate contextual input that actually drives improvement. Course correct in the moment, helping our, so whenever we're working on the cohort based learning, we ask them feedback how we can build on the cohort, because the idea is to make the next cohort better than the previous one. These approaches make learning more immediate and often more relevant. So having a use case attached to your program, having a project attached to a program, having a cascade and connect kind of a learning thing attached to your program works in a way that participants use whatever you're talking about, whatever we want them to learn through a program on their flow of work. Now, continuous learning. This is something that is really, really close to my heart. Um, we all know a single learning event. You do a day leadership sessions for an entire day, and how much time does it take for them to forget about it? I'm sure it's just within a week they'll forget 70% of the people. So it's rarely that it changes any kind of a behavioral change, but a sustained learning requires deliberate reinforcement mechanism that built into program design from the outset. So one of the key behavior enablers for behavior change, as far as I have experienced, is continuity. And instead of a single intervention, learning is spread over time through smaller connected touch points. So have a kind of a cascade connect with the participant, or a kind of a 30-60-90, wherein 30-day follow-up talks about initial reflections, 90-day talks about peer accountability, what kind of conversation, and midpoint coaching, that okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to reach, how do we go ahead with that, and who's going to coach me, who's going to mentor me. 90-day follow-up, of course, outcome based measurement and goal setting, then ongoing nudges. Are we doing really doing that? I'm sure it is easier said than done. We all know about it when we have like 10 programs running in the organization. We have multiple sessions going on. How do we do that? But that's something I'd leave it up to you to decide which program focus on the kind of intensity, the kind of strategic relevance, and also how this program, also in terms of the target group. When we say senior management, we like senior managers, directors, executives. So focus on various aspects, and you can decide. So initial learning institution so when we say initial learning, then we follow up. It creates a lot of reflection, peer interaction, of course, reinforces learning, and ongoing nudges help sustain action. Over time, these repeated interactions tend to embed new ways of working. Moving on, what is the role of AI in leadership development? Our favorite topic. AI is gradually becoming part of how learning is designed and developed. It can personalize learning journeys based on individual needs. If it is embedded in your LMS success factors, it can help people guide them through their learning journeys. It can provide timely prompts and nudges in the flow of work. Okay, I have put in a prompt that remind me to learn this topic, and my LMS does that. Also, uh, I need to learn this. LMS does that. It can simulate scenarios where leaders can practice decisions. So we have a kind of a learning platform which has AI based simulation. So we give them um, real life situations and we give them options, and then the entire interaction is done through AI that helps them practice decision making. And it also offer insights into patterns where capability gaps may exist. What is the capability narratives through performance development, through 360, through success factors, LMS, the amount of data that we might get, and we can understand that, okay, this is working, this is not working, this is what I need to focus on, and how we evolve from here. The value lies in using it selectively, where it enhances the experiences rather than complicating it. And I'm sure we all have learned it hard way, where a day I might have complicated things. It has done for me. If you want, you can ping me and we can have a separate chat. But AI is a kind of an enabler. It will not replace learning or replace our ways of sharing knowledge. It can only be a kind of an enabler, and that's how we need to use it. Now, um, how do we design leadership development for the future? When we bring all these elements together, leadership development starts to feel less like a program, but more like an ecosystem. So we're talking about building a learning ecosystem, not just building a kind of program and deploying it to the people. It is connected to business priority. That will come when you're connected more to your leaders, you're connected more to the people, you're connected more to your stakeholders. It is embedded in real work. We are talking about embedding learning in the flow of work, and I have given you enough examples. It bends formal and informal learning. Formal learning, we talk about workshop, we talk about virtual sessions, we talk about on-demand learning programs or on-demand learning um, nudges or anything, but we're talking about informal learning, community learning, peer collaboration, collaborating with your subordinates, collaborating with your managers, building on use cases, and so on and so forth. It uses digital tools when useful. What are the data that we're getting through our various areas? What is the data that we're getting through C360? What is the data that we're getting through success factor, LMS, and performance management? What are the skills that people are talking about? What is the data that we're getting through interactions and through people? And also, a lot of time when you read, when you go through pages on LinkedIn, you would understand how AI can help us building better leadership development programs. And also, it evolves over time. When we talk about continuous capability and how we are building on that over time through 30, 60, 90. So it's not necessarily doing more. It's about designing with greater intention. Are we doing good? What is our intention? Do we want our learning programs to be a cookie cutter kind of a thing, or just we have to do it and get done with it? Or we are looking at building or creating real change? Are we looking at people coming back to us and saying that this program actually helped me? And that's that's an insane thing for me, because how we work. And I think we are in a powerful situation or position wherein we can change people's course of life or careers through our programs. And that's how I like to see it. Okay, so that's all. I'm sure, if there would be things that you might know already, there would be things that might be new to you. There might be things that you thought, okay, this is not useful. But hit me up on LinkedIn, or uh, I can share my personal Gmail ID and we can connect if you would like to explore. It's just I'm leaving this time for more reflection. What you're doing right now, or what else that you can do. Or if you want to share that something had worked extensively for you, and you'd like to share it with a larger audience, I'm more than happy to to explore that and have a discussion. Or if you think that this doesn't work, we have tried, we can brainstorm and and find out something else. It's a good group of about 30-35 people. Now I'd like to leave you with one thought. What is one idea from today that you might want to explore further in your context? If you think there's something that could be of use to you and you'd like to explore, put it in the chat and I'd like to know. And that's all from my side, and we are opening for questions.
If you have any questions, we have a separate Q&A window. Maybe you can post your questions there instead of rather using the chat window.
Yeah, so I have a question wherein Bikash is asking, how are you rethinking leadership development with AI from traditional program to real time in the flow capability building? So I have recently worked on this program called Strategic AI Leadership, wherein we are talking about um leadership development in the age of AI, how things have changed previously in few years and how things are going to change with AI coming into picture. So we're talking about exploring AI with the team. We're talking about opening up for change with your team, how to deal with the kind of questions that the team might have, how to deal with resistance to change with the team, how to deal with a lot of things that come with AI. So we had multiple modules wherein we spoke about leveraging on AI and dealing with the change. We spoke about how to scale AI across your teams, and then we spoke about future proofing of AI. And that's where they worked on the use cases and everything. And we are also exploring that with other leadership development session programs as well with my team members, wherein we are saying that how AI is changing the requirements of today, the skills that are needed today for a leader to lead, how we build in more trusting instead of shaming people for using AI and helping them build on that with the help of AI. So I hope if I've answered your questions, but if you want, we can connect on LinkedIn and I can give you more answers. Yes, I think Kavita, this is my question for you all as well. If you want to upskill in AI to upskill, there are multiple courses which are available on Coursera. There are multiple courses available on LinkedIn. If you want, you can ping me. I have gone through some, but I'm also looking for some ideas here. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Yeah.
There's another question on Q&A window.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, I can read it out for you. What will
Yes.
define an effective leader in an AI first organization over the next 3 to 5 years?
I'm sorry, can you read that again, please?
Yes. What will define an effective leader in an AI first organization over the next 3 to 5 years?
So we are all talking about becoming an AI first organization. Every IT organization today is talking about being an AI first organization. That means it's going to have a direct impact on the leaders. And the kind of capabilities that we were talking about previously are going to change now. We're going to talk more about change management. We're going to talk more about building collaboration. We're going to talk more about trust. We're going to talk more about dealing with uh, empathy. We're going to talk more about resilience because so many things are changing. I mean, Today we are telling them as a leader, I'm telling my team members that, okay, this is what you need to learn, this is what you need to work on. Tomorrow, in the next 6 months, there's something else that's coming in. How do I deal with that? How do I deal with the ever-changing nature of IT organizations? That's where change management comes into picture. That's where empathy comes into picture. That's where collaboration comes into picture. And also resilience. We are all, I think, that's where change fatigue comes into picture. People are not tired with so many things changing over the past few years. How are we dealing with that? And how we are building on it so that we are more future ready, how we are more visionary, how we are more, we look into the future more. Am I ready for the future? Do I need, because I have seen now that we are extensively talking about agentic AI, there have been leaders who've been talking about it in the last few years. So are we really doing that? So I think these are the few things that, the leaders of today would have to focus on. And I'm not talking about technical skills. I'm talking about leadership development, wherein these are the things. And yes, Sonia said it perfectly. Organization will always be business first and client first, not AI first. But then a lot of time what happens is when it comes to uh, our products, our services, this is what the clients are buying. We're buying. Clients are looking at AI first organization. Clients are looking at organization. We are extensively using AI and how fluent the organization is when it comes to AI, when it comes to agentic AI, when it comes to a lot of other tools that AI is giving. So yes, and I'm perfectly in line with that thought that AI will always be an enabler. It is not going to be the actual thing. And a human connect, a human chaos can never be replaced by an AI. So on that note, I'd like to hand it over to Naveen, and thank you so much, all of you, for being a wonderful uh, audience. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can. Please feel free to send me a connect, and we can have a discussion. We can have a quick call about share about our organizational initiatives, what we are doing, and I'd be more than happy to share my 2 cents with you all, and also listen to you all and learn from you all. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Swati. Thank you so much for a truly insightful session. So, mainly the perspective on leadership development in AI and digital era have really given us a valuable takeaways. Okay, and we really appreciate that you sharing your experience with us today. And also, thank you to all the participants for joining, taking out from their busy schedule. So, have a great day ahead. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you, Swati, once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.